Right. Hi, everyone. It looks like we have a couple of people who are slowly joining. It just chimed 4 o'clock. Um, so as people are joining, my name is Lauren Grenice. I'm the Assistant Director of the Career Enrichment Network here in the College of the Liberal Arts at Penn State. We are very excited to have a wonderful panel of representatives here today. We have two Penn State alumni and one employer representative here on this panel to talk about immigration and refugee work. A really important topic. I know that just anecdotally in my career coaching sessions recently, I've been getting a lot of questions around this area of work. And I think that we're going to have a really wonderful discussion with our panelists here today. Just as a reminder to everybody in the audience, please feel free to pop questions in the Q&A or in the chat box. I will be monitoring them as we go along. Don't be afraid to ask. This is your time where we have a panel of experts in this area to talk through any of the questions that you've had about this field. This panel will be recorded and then posted on our YouTube channel for later viewing. If you have any questions about that, you can also reach out to me too. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm just going to read through our panelists' bios real quick, and then I'll open it up with a question. And then as your questions come in, I'll take them first over the ones we have preset. So first, I'd like to introduce you all to Michalina Kulesza. She is a first-generation American and college student who serves as an AmeriCorps Vista with the community engagement team at the International Rescue Committee in Silver Spring, Maryland. In her capacity building role, she leads the office's communications initiative, supports the growth of community partnerships, and assists with the IRC's Family Mentor Program, which matches local refugee families with volunteer mentors to assist them in long-term socialization, English language learning, and integration into the community. Growing up in an immigrant family sparked her interest in promoting accessibility, equity, and empathy at the institutional level, initially in the public sector and now in the humanitarian sector. Prior to beginning her service year, Michalina graduated with her Master of Public Administration degree with academic focuses in women in government, foreign languages, and international affairs from Rockefeller College of Public Affairs and Policy, and worked in the New York State Legislature for 3 years, leading constituent services efforts and policy initiatives. Her experiences in foreign languages, community engagement, research, and advocacy empower her to connect with individuals to services they need to succeed. And in her free time, she enjoys traveling, running, and yoga. So welcome, Michalina, as our employer representative. All right. So next we have Ariana Reisman. So Ariana is originally from Altoona, Pennsylvania, and received her bachelor's degree in political science from Penn State in 2016. Upon completion of her degree, she relocated to Atlanta, Georgia to attend Georgia State University College of Law, where she received her Juris Doctor degree in 2019. Ariana first started in immigration law as a law clerk during her 1L summer year, drafting extraordinary alibi and national interest waiver petitions at a boutique firm in northern Atlanta. She stayed in immigration law after graduation and admission to the bar, transitioning to high volume corporate business immigration services or business immigration for several years before shifting her focus to and employment back to smaller business and family-based clients. She lives with her husband and 2 dogs and a cat in Southeast Atlanta, and when not working, she enjoys traveling, reading, and video games. So welcome, Ariana. And then last but definitely not least is Kelly Head. Kelly, pronouns she and her, is a proud Penn State alum from the class of 2013. A double major in political science and history, Kelly will always be grateful for the opportunities she had to learn from brilliant Penn State professors who nurtured her passion for the law. After Penn State, Kelly attended Georgetown University Law Center, where she particularly enjoyed her classes in constitutional law and civil rights, and served as student news notes editor on the Georgetown Journal and on gender and the law. During her third year of law school, Kelly accepted a Godin Fellowship, which gave her the opportunity to begin a public interest legal career at the Community Legal Aid Society, Inc., or Classy, in Delaware. At Classy, Kelly represented survivors of gender-based violence and human trafficking in immigration, pardon, and expunging cases. After 4 years at Classy, Kelly transitioned to her current role as staff attorney at the Assista Immigration Assistance at Assista. Kelly provides training and case consultations to lawyers who represent immigrant survivors of gender-based violence. Kelly is grateful to be in a career that allows her to use her legal education and skills to advance safety and dignity of immigrant survivors and gender-based violence. She is excited to work with current Penn State students and is happy to answer any questions around her career path. So welcome, Kelly, and welcome to all three of our wonderful panelists. So to kick it off, I want to just ask each one of you to just talk a little bit about your career journey and how you decided on your career journey within the field of immigration and refugee work. So Michelina, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So happy to speak about my career journey thus far. So as Lauren had mentioned, I went to school in upstate New York. I got my undergrad degree in anthropology and then my master's in public administration. And while living in Albany, which is the capital of New York State, I sort of had a lot of opportunities presented to me related to public service. So working with constituents, working in state government, local government. And so that sort of shaped the beginning of my career path and working for the New York State legislature for a few years. But something that I'd always been particularly interested in, something that's been a career goal for me for some time, has been working directly with immigrants and refugees. As Lauren also mentioned, my parents are immigrants, and so in seeing firsthand and sort of understanding a lot of the issues that immigrants face in coming to the US, especially as they relate to integrating into their communities, knowing what resources are available to them directly, and language access issues. I was happy to be able to sort of work on those on the legislative side, but was looking for more experience working directly with clients that are immigrants and refugees. And so I'm very happy to have the policy background and to be able to tie that into direct service work now.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Ariana, how about you next?
Sure. So I'm kind of on the different side of immigration law. I actually never thought I would end up in immigration law. I did political science and I went to law school, and I originally thought I was going to be a patent attorney. And it turns out that was not for me. So I ended up landing a job in my 1L summer year with a tiny boutique firm, and they were doing extraordinary ability petitions. So I had the opportunity to work with Olympic athletes, World Cup players, scientists, researchers, artists, and I really just kind of fell in love with it, kind of getting to work hand in hand with them, and they're just really, really impressive people. And so I kind of stuck with that job. After I graduated, I shifted more to like a corporate side of things. I was working for a large law firm, doing high volume H-1B, which supports a lot of our tech industry. And then after about 2 or so years of that, I kind of had missed that interaction and that kind of rewarding, getting to kind of work with the clients. So I kind of shifted back where I was doing family-based, so for marriage cases, family-based cases. And then I went back to my original plan, which was extraordinary ability. So that's what I focus on now mainly. Also national interest waiver petitions. It's pretty broad, but I'm definitely on the flip side. I've only had a little experience with asylum law. I had a chance to do a nice pro bono project just recently with a lot of Afghan families, which was really, really rewarding.
Awesome. Thank you so much. How about you, Kelly?
So I'm like Ariana, and that I wasn't sure initially when I went to law school that I wanted to be in immigration law. I knew that I wanted to work in the public interest, which broadly means working for like a nonprofit or a government agency. And I was particularly interested in also like gender-based violence issues, so like domestic violence in particular. And I volunteered at a couple DACA clinics when I was in law school, where we helped folks who were applying for permission to stay here in the US and get work permits based on the fact that they came here as children. And that was very rewarding. And throughout the course of that work, I learned that there was this visa that's available to crime victims called a U visa, including particularly domestic violence victims. And I thought that that was really interesting, and that it would be interesting to do those types of cases after law school. So when an opportunity presented itself to do a fellowship, and then just to step back for a minute, a fellowship is often how folks enter the nonprofit sector after law school. An organization, usually like a large law firm or a corporation, will sponsor someone working at a nonprofit. And this one law firm in New York, Skadden, sponsored my fellowship with Community Legal Aid Society, and they were looking for someone who would do gender-based violence, humanitarian immigration cases. And this, given like my interest, that was something that I was really excited to do. So that's why I took that job. And then now in my job at Classy, as part of my job, like I represented clients, but I also did trainings for community organizations, and I really enjoyed that part of the job. And so that is sort of what led me into my current position, where it's primarily focused now on training and working with other attorneys to help them better serve their clients.
Wonderful. Thank you all. So in just listening to all of the amazing work that you all are doing, whether it's in the law sector, Ariana and Kelly, or within the humanitarian sector, Michelina, it seems like it can be heavy or challenging work. So I'm wondering if you could just talk a little bit about maybe the hardest parts of the work that you do, and then we'll go to the flip side for the next question. But let's start with some of the different challenges that you experience. Michelina, why don't we go with you first?
Sure. And I'm happy to sort of share my experience, but then also the experience of other staff in the organization, as my role differs a little bit. So for added context on that, in serving as an AmeriCorps with the community engagement team, my role is very much so related to sort of like growing partnerships, as Lauren mentioned during the bio, growing partnerships, working on communications for our office, working with volunteers, etc. And so it is quite a bit of the development side of our work, whereas a lot of our staff work a little bit more directly and regularly with clients. And so with that being said, I think that the challenges in working for a resettlement agency, and one that deals with such a wide variety of individuals coming into the US as refugees, asylum seekers, victims of human trafficking, and more. You really have to be careful and sort of preserve your mental health. And so it's really important to sort of like come to work, do the best you can to assist our clients, so the refugees, in being able to advocate for themselves and being able to strive towards like long-term self-sustainability and being able to, work independently, afford housing, afford basic needs, but then step away from the work, as it can often feel very much so all-consuming. And because staff is working with refugees directly, and it's very easy and natural to sort of build relationships with these folks, it's important to be sure that you're sort of setting boundaries as appropriate, in order to not burn out, as it is a lot of work, and in addition, dependent on different timeframes, and different actions that are taking place politically, can be more or less hectic. So for example, in 2021, with the US's withdrawal from Afghanistan, we saw a huge rise in Afghan evacuees coming to the US, during which our organization saw a huge influx of clients. And then very similarly, more recently, a year ago, actually now, with Russia's invasion of Ukraine, we also saw quite an increase. And so really taking the time to set boundaries and take care of yourself is something that's very important in this demanding atmosphere.
Absolutely. I feel like in any type of role that idea of wellness and balance is important, but especially with the work that you're doing. So thank you. Ariana, how about you? Maybe the most challenging or some of the hardest parts of your work, and then we'll go positive.
Yeah. So with me, I think a lot of it is just having to, you know, understand that the immigration is an extremely slow process. And so sometimes it can be really hard for US citizens, family members to kind of understand that it is such a long time frame. So, I've had family cases where, they've been married and they're waiting a year and a half for their case to get approved. And, they're continually having to apply for work authorization, hoping it doesn't expire. And the same thing kind of goes on the business side. If you are from India or you're from China, and you're on an H-1B, you could have an employer that sponsors you. But depending on what category you're in, your petitions could be backed up for 30, 40 years before you could get a green card. So our system really, it has a lot of sort of pitfalls that don't make it very efficient. The organizations like USCIS, Customs, Border Patrol, they don't speak very often to one another. They often don't follow the rules exactly as the other does. And so it can be kind of hard to guide your clients correctly on what to do, what to expect. But mainly it's just, trying to have that patience and, realizing that there's only so much we can do. We can put expedite requests in and hope for the best and request congressional assistance. But I definitely feel like the mental wellness is important because you do get connected to clients. This is a field where it's very easy to build those relationships. And then you kind of really feel like, you're fighting for this person and they deserve to be here. And, maybe things don't work out like you thought they would. So it's good to kind of set those boundaries, take a step back and realize you're not going to be winning all the time in this field.
Thank you so much. Kelly, how about you? Challenges?
I would agree with Ariana. In my practice, I found that since so much of immigration law is like driven by the executive branch and who the president is, there were a lot of changes under the last administration that made it a lot more difficult for folks to be able to access the legal immigration system, like really things like, being able to apply for a fee waiver for your case. A lot of survivors of gender-based violence have low incomes, and these immigration forms can be, $900 some, and that's a lot of money for someone. So we would just, have these sudden changes with immigration policy about things like fee waivers and things like, small mistakes on forms, meaning your case is rejected, leading to further delay. And these gender-based cases can take up to like 5 years before the survivor gets a work permit. And often these folks are undocumented. So they're waiting in the United States, without work authorization, without protection. So that can be frustrating. Like it's very frustrating for the clients, and you see it as the attorney, and then it's frustrating for you as the attorney as well. And like Ariana was saying, like there's only so much that attorneys can do. And that can also be very frustrating, knowing like that there's limits to what you're able to do. So I would say this is a very rewarding field, and I would encourage folks to enter it. But it is very important to have boundaries and make sure you're taking care of yourself.
Hearing from all of you the amount of resilience and persistence that you all have to have in your own career goals and your own like work every single day. So that's pretty amazing. So going off of what Kelly said with the rewarding piece of things, I'm wondering if you all can talk a bit about the most encouraging parts of your work or the most rewarding and what you love about the work that you're doing. So Michelina, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So within my role specifically, I work on a program called the Family Mentor Program, through which we match volunteers in the community with families, refugee families that are in need of mentorship. The program takes place for 6 months, and during that time, the mentors assist refugees with, excuse me, English language learning, socialization, communication, and cultural integration. And so in having the opportunity to work on this program, I've been able to sort of organize events where mentors and mentees can come together and learn from one another, as well as best practices for mentorship. And I think that I think to Kelly's point and Ariana's point as well about stepping away from the work when necessary, when it becomes challenging, it's also nice to step away from the day to day to look from the outside at the work you've been able to do. And so from our end, in matching these mentors and mentees, it's sort of easy to let go and sort of offer support as needed, but hope for the best in terms of seeing clients improve, but in being able to create spaces where they can come together and enjoy themselves, you get to really see the success of seeing clients go from basic English language skills to being able to speak confidently and proficiently and saying that they've secured a job interview with an employer that they've been wanting to work with. And so stepping back is also helpful in just kind of seeing the success. And I think to that point also, I definitely do enjoy the one-on-one client interactions. I think that there's often so much that you're able to learn from folks that have such a different background from yourself. And so that's always something I look to sort of fuel me, especially when perhaps I'm inundated or feeling overwhelmed.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Ariana, how about you?
I definitely feel like I agree with Nicolina completely in terms of, having that moment where you kind of, even though, day to day you might have these hard fought battles, when you kind of step back and you realize, how many families have we reunited? How many families have we created with fiance petitions who finally get here, and they get to be with the love of their life. It's, you kind of get to see this at a bigger picture and realize that in the long run, you're doing a lot of really great work for a lot of families. And I feel like some of my favorite things really are just, the days where those approval notices come in, especially if it's like a long, long wait, somebody who's waited 16, 18, 20 months, and then finally that green card comes in the mail, it's a big time thing. And so it's really nice to see those. And that connection with your clients, they genuinely, as Ms. Leah said, they really, you learn so much from them. They have so much experience. Everyone's cultures are so different. And so it's really great to kind of, broaden that worldview while you're kind of helping people get this American dream. You really get to learn a lot from them.
So thank you. Kelly?
I would say just seeing like the resilience of my clients. That's been in my prior role. That was very rewarding for me. Like they've been through so much, and just seeing how they're able to continue with their lives and to make changes and to to raise their children and to be just every day like striving to move forward. That's been really rewarding for me to see. In the cases where we are able to get folks status or even just a work permit, like just seeing the transformation and the impact that can have on someone, that's been very rewarding to see. And in my current role, being able to work with individual attorneys on their cases is something I really enjoy, because due to the work that we've done, we've been able to help some attorneys get better outcomes for their clients, or be able to get better outcomes with USCI.
Oh, I think Kelly, you might have cut off.
Cases helps attorneys present their clients and be able to get better outcomes with the agency. Sorry, did I freeze up?
Yeah, you froze up. Would you mind just repeating what you said, the last like half of it real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So it's been really helpful and rewarding to be able to work with individual attorneys on their cases, to be able to give them strategies that will help their survivor clients get justice and status in the United States. Sometimes we hear back from the attorneys, like, because of Assisa's help, my client got status, or my client got the approval, or their child was able to reunite with them from abroad. And that's been really rewarding to see, just to know that the work that we're doing is helping improve the practice of immigration law, which, then helps survivors.
Thank you so much. So it looks like we have a couple questions in the chat. So the first one is, would you recommend going to law school in order to work in immigration? So I'll let Michelina, you can start with that because you have more of a public administrative background. So if you would like to talk a little bit about the International Rescue Committee and what you all do there.
Sure. So I think from my perspective, working for a resettlement agency, which resettles refugees locally in the US, that's also a nonprofit, right? There are certainly needs for a variety of different academic backgrounds. And so I've come into this role with my undergrad degree. I forget if I already mentioned this, but was in anthropology. And my grad degree was in public administration. And so I've been able to sort of tailor aspects of my education to the work that I do. So for me in my current role in the community engagement team, a law degree was certainly not necessary. In addition, a lot of our staff, and so just to kind of give you a sense, we have employment staff that assist refugees in finding jobs. We have a housing team that does the same thing, but with housing. We have a casework team, which works with the refugees from the beginning of their time coming to the US, and more. I believe the majority of our staff do not, in fact, have law degrees, although we do have an immigration team that specifically works with our clients to receive their green cards, to receive to help them along the path of becoming citizens. And so I think the only staff that we have that are attorneys are on that team, to give you sort of a sense of what that looks like within the resettlement agency context.
Thank you so much. Ariana and Kelly, I know that you both have law backgrounds, so if you could just put your 2 cents in as to whether you would recommend going into law school in order to work in immigration. Whoever would like to start.
I think it depends on what type of immigration work you want to do. If you are more interested in like refugee resettlement issues, or like career coaching or things of that nature, a law degree I don't think is necessary for that. I think, and also like community organizing and that type of work, I don't think a law degree is necessary for that either. And coalition building, folks who are more interested in policy work, a law degree might be helpful for that, but a public administration or public policy degree could also be helpful. And then there are even ways to represent immigrants in legal cases, at least for nonprofits, by becoming what's called an accredited representative. So, you have to do a certain number of like continuing education hours and learning about the immigration legal system, but that eventually, if you're able to get that status, you are able to represent immigrants without actually needing to have a law degree. So that is an option for folks who are interested in immigration law, but don't necessarily want to go to law school. And then also there's paralegal roles too, that I would encourage that for folks who aren't sure if they want to go to law school, because I think that's a really good way to get a sense of, what it's like to work in a law office and to be an attorney.
Yeah, I would definitely echo the paralegal role if you're not completely certain. Like, even if you're just taking it on a little bit, it kind of gives you that kind of head first dive into what you're going to experience on a day-to-day basis. And I'll be honest with you, most of the paralegals I know are some of the smartest immigration people that I've ever met. Like, they are so knowledgeable, they know so much. And if you're looking to do something business immigration wise, a lot of companies have entire departments dedicated to global mobility, and those people don't have law degrees. Most of them are working in HR, or human capital. You don't need a law degree to do that to help immigrants get business immigration visas. That's kind of the in-house side of things where you don't need a law degree.
Awesome. I appreciate that insight. That's incredibly helpful from all three of you. Thank you. So we have a couple others asking questions. So what would be your tips or suggestions for undergraduate students interested in pursuing immigration law internships? But I'll also say any type of immigration related internship. So why don't we start with law first? So Ariana, I'll throw it back to you, and then we'll go to Kelly and then Michelina.
Sure, yeah. So in terms of undergrad, I would really recommend, if you can find organizations like Michelina's. They're really great resources. They have a ton of really talented people, and they kind of get you in that day to day where you really can see, what is happening. It's a little harder on the business immigration side of things to kind of find internships like that. I'm not certain how many exist on the undergraduate level. But even maybe just shadowing in certain business departments, they may, offer that type of thing. Otherwise, that you could reach out to immigration attorneys that do that sort of thing and see if they have any inclinations on things that might be available in your area. But definitely, any of the nonprofits are fantastic, and they're really wonderful resources when you're first starting out to kind of learn the basics.
Thank you. Awesome. Kelly, yeah.
I would echo everything Ariana said, especially about nonprofits. Some nonprofits in particular are very interested in young people who are, up on social media and communications more so than those of us who are a little older. So especially, I think college students are actually can be very valuable. So I would definitely encourage folks to look into that, and just make sure you have like a reason about why you want to go into this field that you could talk to the interviewer about. That's something that I definitely recommend.
Yeah, and to add to that, I would, of course, encourage you, if interested, to apply for an internship with the International Rescue Committee. As I had mentioned earlier, we do have teams within every office that specifically do work on immigration, which could prove to be a great opportunity to get a sense of the type of work and to assist in sort of making the decision longer term about law school, and whether it is something that sort of works well with your skill sets and that you would be interested in doing long term. The IRC also does have over 20 offices in the US. And so while I am working out of the one in Silver Spring, Maryland, and we do have another in Baltimore, there are plenty along the Northeast coast, as well as throughout the US. And so I definitely encourage you to take a look. And I'll also oh, I think I just muted myself. I'll also share the link to the internships page. And then from there, you should be able to also sort through for immigration. Another opportunity I do want to just throw out there is the role that I'm currently with the organization through, which is AmeriCorps Vista. For those that don't know, AmeriCorps Vista is, or rather AmeriCorps is a year of service, so a year of volunteering through the federal government, through which you receive a living stipend and receive a placement at an organization, typically a nonprofit or university, to help in improving their capacity around building up how many clients they're able to take on, how much of a reach they have within the community. And so if that sounds like an opportunity that you might be interested in taking on, as it does also come along with a living stipend, I'll also share that link in the chat.
Thank you so much for those resources, Michelina. Excellent. So another question that came into the chat. What does your day-to-day work look like as an immigration lawyer? What time do you go to work? How many hours do you work? So Ariana and Kelly, I'll put that on you first, but then also Michelina, I want to hear about your day-to-day as well. So Kelly, why don't we start with you about day-to-day hours worked?
So I work entirely from home. So I just, go from, one part of my apartment to the other. In terms of my work hours, it's 9 to 5. Something that I really like about my organization is that we really do value work-life balance and making sure that, we do our work, and then after work is done, being able to do other things that we enjoy. So I'd say, unless we have a conference or a really important training coming up, generally I do stick within those working hours. In terms of my day-to-day, a lot of what I do is research. So the way that our organization works is folks send us questions about their immigration cases, like legal questions. There's my client entered the United States without permission, are they eligible for a U visa? And then we do the legal research, and then we meet with them on a video call and discuss their case with them. So a lot of my day-to-day is preparing for those appointments, doing legal research, looking at cases and laws and regulations. We also train immigration attorneys primarily through webinars. So the other major portion of my day is working on PowerPoint slides for webinars, practicing for webinars, and then also we write like written materials that we disseminate to attorneys in the field about best practices or changes in the law. So some of my day-to-day is also working on those as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Ariana?
So it really, for me, right now, I'm working in a much smaller firm. And of course, COVID really has thrown everything on its head a little bit. It used to be all in office, and now I'm working a hybrid schedule. So I do a few days in the office, and then I do a few days at home. It just really depends on if I have cases that I need to file, if my paralegals need to meet with me, in person, that kind of thing. But really, in terms of my day-to-day, time frame, I live in Atlanta, and we have the second worst traffic in the country. So technically our business hours are 9 to 5. Usually what I'll do is either do hours at home in the morning and then drive up when the traffic is a little bit lighter, and kind of do the same thing in the afternoon. So I'm doing work here and there, sometimes in the morning, sometimes later at night, but standard business hours for the most part. If you are looking for something that's much larger, like a big law type job, high volume, can expect to work a lot longer hours than that. Most of them have billable hour requirements. Smaller firms don't usually do that. But the much bigger kind of corporate firms, they will usually give you an amount of hours that they need you to bill every year. And so you kind of have to work in to meet those hours. But my day-to-day, because I am in such a unique area of immigration law, I'm writing immigration petitions basically all day long. And if I'm not writing the actual petition letters themselves, I'm helping draft recommendation letters, employment verification letters for my clients. I would say a good 75–80% of my work is writing, like just sitting down and writing petitions. I do delegate a lot of my form work to paralegals. I have them help me with some basic requests for evidence and that kind of thing. I do consults with clients to see if they might qualify for extraordinary ability petitions. Maybe they're in a field that's so valuable to the US that we could get them a national interest waiver, but mainly writing, lots and lots of writing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Michelina, what about your day-to-day?
Sure. So I work similarly to Ariana, also on a hybrid schedule. So I'm in the office 3 days a week and remote 2 days a week. My office's schedule is typically 9 to 5, and that stays pretty consistent throughout our staff members. From my end, there's very often opportunities to attend community events, in particular those that we're hosting, which typically occur in the evenings or on weekends. As an example, we host monthly volunteer orientations to give prospective volunteers an idea of what they can do to volunteer in the community with our organization. So we'll be doing those in the evenings. Additionally, as I mentioned earlier, we have sort of meet and greets for mentors and mentees within our family mentor program. And so we'll host those typically on weekends as well. So those opportunities do come up, but they aren't typically too consistent or predictable. So it's very much so working evenings and weekends as needed. In terms of my team structure, the community engagement team is a small team of about 4 people. The IRC in Silver Spring altogether has about 80 staff, so it is a very large office. But within the context of our team, we work very collaboratively across the different projects that we focus on. Within my specific day-to-day, I work on our communications, and so I'll typically be working on our office newsletter, managing our social media account, and drafting various sort of proposals for how we might advance our social media and communications footprint in the community. In addition to communications, I also assist with our family mentor program. So I'll typically assist with client intakes. So clients will be referred by their caseworker to the family mentor program. From there, there's a sort of linear process of doing the initial interview with the client, then corresponding with the mentor, setting up a time for the two of them to meet for the first time. I'll also sort of lead on that first meeting as well of the volunteer and the refugee family, and sort of support as needed. So that might look like emails, Zoom calls, but we are starting to do those first visits more and more in person as well. And so that really sort of varies dependent on the volunteers' availability and the mentees' availability. In addition, I'll also very typically be meeting with local community partners, so organizations that we have worked with in the past or that are new to us. These partners can look like other nonprofits that have similar missions. Sometimes they're the offices of elected officials or government agencies, and other times they're also foundations or businesses that are interested either in learning more about the work that we do or otherwise looking for ways that they can engage and partner with us long term. And so those are typically meetings that I'll have a couple times a week as well. And I'm a little more extroverted personally, so I do enjoy more meetings to kind of break up the time spent on my computer. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, so many different things. You're wearing so many different hats. I love it. So to follow up with this question, I'm wondering if each of you could talk a little bit about what skills are most valuable in your career. What are those top skills that you need within your field to succeed? So Ariana, why don't we start with you?
Sure. I think the biggest thing for me at least is the ability to take a look at a case and be able to be persuasive and fight zealously for your client. Maybe they don't necessarily meet a criteria that you think they might meet on their face, but if you can do some research and find a way to really bolster that case and prove to immigration that they qualify for this, I think it's important that you be able to do that, which a lot of that is just writing skills. That is important. But I do think another part of this is being able to research topics. Immigration is a very fluid field. It's been mentioned a few times before here that it's connected with the executive branch. So anytime we have a presidential change, even congressional changes, it really can just change the field completely. So overnight, something that used to work yesterday might not work today. So you have to be able to find those regulations, look up any type of research that might be applicable. And finally, I think you really need to be able to kind of be a people person in a way. A lot of the time you're going to be dealing with clients who are super stressed. It's their life. It's something that's taking a really long time. It's very expensive to do immigration processes. It's you just need to be able to be empathetic, but also, be fighting for your clients, and be able to communicate that to them, during those difficult times and also during the good times.
Kelly, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Ariana said. Just creativity is really important. In my job, a lot of what I do is helping attorneys come up with creative arguments for why their client should be eligible for a certain type of immigration benefit. So creativity is very important. Definitely research in my particular field. In terms of the training that I do for attorneys, being able to connect with an audience and make trainings sufficiently interactive that it keeps people interested and engaged. That's a skill that comes, I think, more with practice than just having it innately. And that's something that I've definitely been able to build on and work on in this particular job. In terms of individual client representation, being trauma informed is really important if you're going to be working with folks who have experienced trauma. Recognizing that certain behaviors that might seem counterproductive or difficult often can be the result of trauma. So just recognizing that, having empathy and compassion, like Ariana was saying, and just being willing to meet folks where they are is very important.
Well, thank you. How about you, Michelina?
I definitely agree with what both Ariana and Kelly said relating to communication and interpersonal skills. I think, Ariana, you had said the ability to sort of influence, and Kelly, you had mentioned engaging individuals, and I thought those were really both salient points. I think that being able to communicate with a wide variety of individuals in your day-to-day, again, with individuals that are coming from traumatic backgrounds, and being able to do so in a culturally sensitive manner is very important. But then at the same time, being able to translate, not literally, but figuratively, their needs to your supervisors and to your teammates is vital, and definitely does take some practice. And so being able to speak across, different levels of leadership and teammates is very important. And I think something that successful individuals in our office definitely have. I think that in terms of interning, if I can impart this suggestion to folks that are looking for internships, and relating to interpersonal skills, asking questions is super, super helpful. Being able to sort of, like, once you intern, work with an office, but not being afraid to ask different team members questions, or people that you don't work with questions, I think is great, just in kind of getting a sense of and learning about what an organization does and what's needed for it to function on a day-to-day basis. I think another skill set that's definitely helped me along my career thus far is organizational skills. So being able to have a system between sort of checking my emails, checking my calendar, and then prioritizing tasks based on what is most important on a day-to-day basis. I think the skill set kind of applies to any job you might have, but definitely helps in balancing needs, and definitely something that I think most are able to do with a good amount of practice. Let's see. I think otherwise, Kelly and Ariana, you really covered a lot of the strengths that are helpful. So just those two for me: organization and communication.
You all have mentioned such amazing skill sets. So given most of the attendees in our audience are undergraduate students, right? What are some of the different things that they can be doing right now to build some of those skill sets? So Ariana, I'll kick it back to you to start off, and then we'll go to Kelly and then Michelina.
Sure. I just want to agree with Nicolina so much about organization. That is something that is really important in immigration, because if your clients, maybe their status is going to expire, maybe you need to get ready to renew them, getting a good system in place, or knowing what works for you ahead of time will be really beneficial if you get into a career in immigration. In terms of, writing skills, that's just, you just have to practice a lot, and you really kind of get into a group of what works and what doesn't work. But I find it really important if you have other people review your work. Sometimes it can be hard to get criticism or feedback, but I found that over the years, that's some of the most crucial information that I've learned. The reason that, I can be so effective at what I do is because I've had so many wonderful people, look over the work that I've done and give me those pointers and those feedbacks so that I can grow. I think that's really important. And in terms of communication, I think, kind of branching out, get in your community, see what you can do, meet the people that, you live around and you work around. And, these nonprofits, like I said, are really great for this because it's a lot of exposure, and it gives you that opportunity to kind of build those skills and understand how to communicate with people who, are dealing with a lot and may not have come from the best of situations. Those are really, really good resources and opportunities to kind of build that communication skill.
Kelly, how about you?
I would echo the advice on with practicing writing skills. Just taking courses that that require you to write a lot of papers. That's really helpful. I'm not sure if Penn State still has like the writing across the curriculum requirement, but if you do, like, still making sure in that class to like really focus on using that as an opportunity to improve your writing skills, I think is really good. For folks who are interested in working with folks who have been traumatized or have experienced violence, working with local nonprofits at Penn State could help you build those skills, like perhaps with Center Safe or another organization, staffing a domestic violence hotline, something like that, that will help you, work with survivors and make real differences in people's lives, while also getting the skills that you need to learn how to work with folks in a trauma-informed way.
Amazing. Thank you. How about you, Michelina?
I think the first step to sort of like the communication aspect and the getting to know what options are out there, learning about the different opportunities that exist in immigration, is to listen to point people from organizations. So you're already here and you're already taking that step, which is terrific. I think really to build your communication skills and sort of hone in on the different types of audiences you might be speaking with, while you're also building your network and getting a sense of how you might want to work in immigration, is to do that networking piece. So reflecting what employers are in your network, what opportunities are there to speak with representatives from different offices. Do you have friends that have interned at a certain organization that you might also be interested in working with? Chatting with them informally, and really like leaning into speaking with individuals that work in certain locations that you might also be interested in working with. Because in particular, as students, more often than not, those staff members are more than happy to sort of assist and chat and discuss their sort of, strengths and weaknesses and what's worked for them to sort of better guide you in your career. I think in terms of and in switching gears to organizational skills, I would definitely take a moment to notice what your current practices are around your studies, around your personal life, how you go about organizing your day-to-day and keeping on top of the various deadlines and obligations you have, and notice what that might look like in a professional setting, right? So what we all sort of mentioned about our day-to-day and balancing various different priorities and deadlines. So sort of actively thinking and reflecting on on what practices might be in place that you could incorporate into place to sort of strengthen time management skills. Starts with knowing what you currently do. Yeah, that's it on my end.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. So I know that we have about 7 minutes left. So before I ask you the last question, I just want to give Michelina just a chance if there's anything more that you wanted to say about the International Rescue Committee in particular.
Yeah, sure. I would love to just sort of add a little bit of context about the work that the IRC does, because it is such a large organization that does like a very wide range of different services throughout the entire world. So just in kind of giving you more perspective on what that looks like, I'll offer some additional context. So I had mentioned previously that the IRC in the US is a resettlement agency, so it does direct service work with clients to help them gain their footing within the US. Already sort of spoke to this, but internationally, the International Rescue Committee also does do quite a bit of work in terms of disaster prevention. The IRC is one of the only nonprofit organizations to work across all levels of resettlement. And so that means that the IRC is present in regions that are active conflict zones, where people are actively being displaced from their homes, in regions where there are refugee camps, and offers support to those individuals through emergency services, including medical services, food, water, etc. And then again, moving back to the US and Europe, these are locations where we offer resettlement support. So helping those folks that have been displaced find their home. And so just to kind of add to give you a sense, because it is such a large organization that it's sort of challenging to sort of pinpoint what it is that it does. But it is one of 9 other resettlement agencies that do very similar work, again, in the US. So I hope that context is helpful as you sort of explore the different opportunities that are available to you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Michelina. I really appreciate that. We have more information on these types of opportunities for within the IRC, as well as additional opportunities on Nittany Lion Careers. So you can log in, everybody has an account, go in and see what other opportunities you can apply for, as well as meet with me or another career coach in our office to talk about your interests in these areas. But so to conclude our panel, I just want to ask all of you what helps you stay inspired within this work that you do. So why don't we start with Kelly?
I would say what keeps me inspired is being able to help folks stay in the country that they've come to call home, and being a small part of someone's ability to overcome their trauma and to be able to move forward with their lives and preserving families.
Amazing. Thank you. Ariana, how about you?
For me, it's really great to work with some of like the most brilliant minds and artists and athletes and people who are doing things that are just truly things that will change the world. And so getting to be a part of helping them come here, getting to stay here and keep contributing, to the benefit of our nation, and the world. I think it's just really great to kind of see all of the good that's going to come out of that. And it's really, really wonderful to kind of help families stay together and really, live out that American dream.
Amazing. And last but not least, Michelina.
I would say that my teammates and members of our staff that I interact with absolutely keep me inspired. They come from all walks of life, and a lot of our former clients do become staff members. So we sort of retain that diverse and very culturally unique perspective, and are able to bounce back ideas back and forth and learn quite a bit from those team members. In addition, I think what keeps me going and what keeps me inspired very much so is the ability to increase awareness in the community of growing immigrant populations. And so I think that in working on the community engagement team, being able to be the public voice sort of for the IRC, for the IRC's clients, and educating the public about the importance of welcoming refugees and humanitarian immigrants really goes a long way. And I think in bringing that awareness, we're able to continually, excuse me, I'm just going to have a sip of water real quick. One sec. Wow, that was supposed to be my final liner and I just destroyed it. Okay. So the work that we do in building awareness in the community about immigrants and refugees is super, super important because it is able to create a more welcoming environment person by person slowly for immigrants in the entire country as they come into the US, and also increases awareness about the needs of people that come into the US, whether that be a trauma-informed practice of communication and the resources that they typically need to be able to succeed self-sufficiently in the long term. So increasing awareness, that's my that keeps me going. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much for all of that information. All three of you, I just want to say thank you because we're at time right now, and I know you all have very busy schedules and busy lives. So thank you all so much for taking the time out of your day to talk with our students about the just incredible work that you all are doing. I was in awe just listening to all three of you talk today with the amazing work that you're doing within this field. Just for those who are in attendance, all three of our wonderful panelists have offered to provide their email addresses out. So if you have any interest in talking with any of them further, please just reach out to me. I will also send a follow-up email with their contact information to you all, as well as the Zoom recording later on, probably towards the end of the week. But otherwise, Michelina, thank you so much for being our employer representative. Kelly and Ariana, thank you so much for representing our wonderful Penn State alumni. I hope to see you back on campus soon. Please come and visit. And if anybody needs anything, please just let me know. But thank you all so much for your time today. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.